You feel it the moment the screen goes dark. The itch arrives fast. Nothing left to scroll. Nothing left to watch. You reach for another app before the silence settles. That reflex is not new. Psychologist John Eastwood and colleagues described boredom in 2012 as the unpleasant state of wanting satisfying engagement and being unable to find it. Boredom is not simply doing nothing. It is the feeling that your attention wants somewhere to go and cannot find a place worth landing. Now remove the phone. Remove television, books, recorded music, electricity, cities, and writing. Go back tens of thousands of years to people living in small groups where work came in bursts. A hunt, a gathering trip, tool repair, food preparation, then stretches when no emergency demanded action. What happened in those stretches? For years, the easy answer was survival. Ancient people, we imagine, must have been too busy staying alive to become bored. Every hour was a fight for calories. Every day was work. But the evidence refuses to stay that simple. In 2019, Mark Dybel and colleagues studied time use among Agta communities in the Philippines. The researchers found that adults averaged about 30 hours of daylight leisure each week, alongside subsistence work and domestic labor. 30 hours. The old picture of human beings working from dawn until sleep suddenly looks less secure. In some foraging contexts, leisure is built into the rhythm of life. So the real mystery begins there. Humans had time. What did they do with it? One answer is play. In 2009, psychologist Peter Gray surveyed a wide anthropological literature and argued that playfulness was not merely a childhood break from serious life. In many hunter-gatherer societies, he suggested, play and humor helped support egalitarian, cooperative social life. Children learned through self-directed activity. Adults used humor to soften conflict and resist domination. Imagine children inventing rules, breaking them, arguing, renegotiating, and returning to the game. No lecture is required. They are learning how far they can push another person, how to recover after conflict, how to recognize unfairness, and how to continue after losing. The game ends. The training does not. Play may have been one way empty time became social practice. Storytelling appears to have done something similar. In 2017, Daniel Smith and colleagues studied storytelling among the Agta and found that camps with more skilled storytellers showed higher cooperation in an experimental measure. Skilled storytellers were also valued as social partners. The stories often carried lessons about cooperation, equality, and social behavior. A story can do something an instruction cannot. It lets a group rehearse a problem before the problem arrives. What do you do with a selfish person? What happens when someone refuses to share? Who deserves loyalty? When should a rule bend? A group can explore those questions inside a story, where nobody has to bleed for the lesson. The empty hours were not simply gaps between useful events. Some of the useful events may have happened inside the gaps. That is how waiting itself can become memory, practice, and culture. But play and stories leave almost nothing in the archaeological record. Laughter does not fossilize. A game played in dust disappears with the next wind. So archaeologists look for something harder to erase. At Blombos Cave on the southern coast of South Africa, they found it. In 2004, Christopher Henshelwood and colleagues reported 41 perforated nacreous shell beads from Middle Stone Age layers, most associated with a phase dated to roughly 75,000 years ago. Later work at Blombos also documented intentionally engraved ochre pieces from levels spanning roughly 75,000 to 100,000 years ago. Picture the evidence correctly. Not hundreds of necklaces. 41 small shells, pierced, handled, worn, and preserved by chance across an almost unimaginable distance of time. That is enough. A spear point can bring down prey, but a bead works differently. Its power depends on other minds. Someone must notice it. Someone must respond to what wearing it means. Identity, affiliation, difference, memory, status, beauty. Archaeology cannot tell us that the maker was bored. It cannot prove that leisure invented art. That would go beyond the evidence. What it can show is more interesting. Early humans invested attention and labor in objects whose importance was social and symbolic, not merely nutritional. They were building layers of meaning around the body and the group. They had not stopped surviving in order to make meaning. Meaning may have been part of how human social life worked. The ochre makes the picture stranger. Henshelwood and colleagues described engraved pieces carrying deliberate geometric designs. Whatever each mark meant, the repeated act of making patterns tells us that human attention was not trapped entirely inside the next meal. There was room for convention, room for memory, Room for things that mattered because people agreed they mattered. Once a group lives in that world, empty time changes. A quiet hour can become a lesson, a game, a joke, a story, a pattern cut into ochre, a shell chosen, pierced, and worn. The question is no longer, how did they survive having nothing to do? The better question is, how much of human culture was built when immediate survival temporarily loosened its grip? At night, that social world may have changed again. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner compared 174 day and nighttime conversations among Jew/Hwansi communities, along with translated texts. She found a clear shift. Daytime talk leaned toward practical concerns. Around the fire at night, conversation opened toward stories, people beyond the immediate group, ritual, imagination, and remembered experience. Fire did more than extend the day. It changed what the day could contain. The hours after practical tasks could become a second kind of workspace, one built from attention. But there is a tension here. Social life is not automatically warm. The same group that gives you belonging also watches what you do. Stories can teach generosity, but they can also define selfishness. Reputation can reward a good storyteller or reliable partner, but reputation also means actions travel beyond the moment in which they happen. To belong is to be held by other people. It is also to be seen by them. That may be one reason storytelling is so powerful. Smith and colleagues did not find that stories merely amused people. Their results linked storytelling with cooperation and social value for skilled storytellers. A bead can signal belonging. A story can explain what belonging requires, and play lets people practice it before the stakes become deadly. Now bring the problem back to the dark screen in your hand. The easy lesson would be, ancient people had real connection, modern people have phones, therefore phones are bad. But that is too simple. Ancient humans were not saints of silence. Evidence from play, storytelling, ornament, ritual, and nighttime conversation suggests something almost opposite. Humans have long created stimulation. We seek novelty, pattern, emotion, suspense, competition, laughter, and other minds. The difference worth noticing is not stimulation versus silence. It is participation versus consumption. A game requires you to respond. A story told face-to-face changes with the listeners. A song requires timing. A joke can fail. A conversation can surprise you. Making an ornament leaves a physical trace of attention and effort. Much modern stimulation asks less of us. That does not make it evil. And passive entertainment is not automatically harmful, but it can fill a gap without building anything between the people sharing the room. Imagine trading places with them for one day. At first you might miss the screen, then you might notice something stranger. Their world would not necessarily be quiet. Someone would talk, someone would tease, children would make a game from almost nothing. Work would return, then pause. Attention would move outward again toward faces, voices, objects, weather, and memory. Now bring one of them here. The endless entertainment might amaze them, but perhaps the strangest sight would not be the screen itself. Humans have always loved stimulation. The strange part might be seeing 5 people sitting together, each receiving a different story from somewhere else, while nobody in the room has to answer. For most of human history, entertainment was often something people helped create. Now it can arrive without us. That may be the real difference. The next time the screen goes dark and the itch arrives, you do not have to worship boredom. You do not have to throw away technology or pretend silence is always profound. Just remember that empty time was never necessarily empty. For our ancestors, a pause in survival could become a game, a story, a symbol, a relationship repaired, or an idea passed into another mind. The most human response to boredom may not have been escaping the silence. It may have been turning toward someone else and making something happen together. We are still capable of that. The question is whether, when the silence arrives, we still remember how.